world. I can't tell you how often when they'd say 30 seconds to air, I'd think to myself, oh, what am I doing here? And I wish I could just, set something on fire or go through the floor, anything, because it is terrifying. You've got one shot at it, and that's it.
When you watch the show and you see Samantha, or Elizabeth as Samantha, that's who Elizabeth was. She was Samantha.
She was charming, sweet, and she was just a wonderful actress.
You try to punish me or thank me, Pops?
She loved her father, but they had a love, not like relationship. I mean, he was not only just this conservative Republican to her liberal Democrat-ness, but they butted heads on many different things.
She was the daughter of a famous movie star and a woman determined to carve out her own identity.
She wanted to entertain. I remember her saying that her father warned her about this business being very difficult on your self-esteem. You're selling yourself, and it's very difficult on people's egos and self-esteem to be rejected, and it's a difficult business.
So it was such a complex relationship.
Her father shocked everyone when he fell in love with oil heiress Buffy Harkness. In 1950, Elizabeth's parents were divorced, and just days later, Robert remarried.
The divorce devastated her. She had worshipped her father, and as happens, I think, in many cases, she was thoroughly devastated by it, but she put on a front. She put on a face to cover her disappointment and disillusionment.
When she did The Legend of Lizzie Borden, that really hurt him. That really freaked him out, because that film was about a woman who murdered horribly her father and stepmother. And when Robert Montgomery left Elizabeth's mother, Elizabeth Allen, for another Elizabeth, with Elizabeth Harkness, who was an heiress, it hurt Elizabeth very much, and she resented.
She was not somebody who was, on set and off, but on set too, she was a warm person who was not, she was very aware of everybody around set, what they were doing, wanted to learn from them, and also wanted to make sure that everybody felt good. She felt like, and I've heard that said before, that the lead on a show really sets the tone for what everyone's experience, from, the cast, the crew, everyone else. And it seems like she was exactly who you'd want on your set.
Absolutely. She and Bill Asher both really rode that show, and they wanted to create a welcoming set. And, when you watch the show and you see Samantha, or Elizabeth as Samantha, that's who Elizabeth was. She was Samantha. She was that. Originally it was like Tammy Grimes who had been approached to play Samantha, and Tammy said no, and Elizabeth said yes. And when I give interviews, I usually say we would not be having this conversation if Tammy Grimes had played Samantha on The Wits. It's the truth. She brought something so real and magical to that role. She made you believe and like witches because she was so believable and likable in that role.
Yeah. So let's begin a little bit further back. So then it's an interesting thing to hear about her childhood with regard to her father, who obviously was a famous actor and an important Hollywood figure. But, maybe more importantly is the fact that he was a very staunch right-wing advocate politically, and well known as such. And she did not feel that way. It feels very now, with families who are very split in our divided country. But I guess, this was before I was born, but I guess it shows you this has always been a thing that happens. Sometimes families are divided by politics, friends are divided by politics. Can you talk a little bit about your sense of what that was like for her as a child? Yeah,
it was, she loved her father, but they had a love, not like relationship. He was not only just this conservative Republican to her liberal Democrat-ness, but they butted heads on many different things. He was very strict. She wanted to be a regular person and go to the movies and with her friends. He would not let her go to the movies. He did not want her to go to whatever that was about. And she was like, well, Bobby and Sissy can go. I don't care what Bobby and Sissy are doing. And yet at the same time, if she behaved in any arrogant way, and she told me this directly, if she behaved in any arrogant way, he would have had none of it. So it was such a complex relationship. And years later, after she became this actress, which he never wanted her to do, but then ended up making her debut on his show, which was Robert Montgomery Presents, an anthology which was very, very popular at the time. She made her debut on an episode called Top Secret. So there you go. And then years after that, when Bewitched came along, and she became a bigger star on TV than he ever was in the films, there was another wedge between it. And then she had asked him to do the narration for the pilot. He said no, and that hurt her. And then she asked him to play her father on the show, Maurice, who was later played by Morris Evans, and he said no. So it was strange. And then even after that show ended, when she did The Legend of Lizzie Borden, that really hurt him. That really freaked him out, because that film was about a woman who murdered horribly her father and stepmother. And when Robert Montgomery left Elizabeth's mother, Elizabeth Allen, for another Elizabeth, with Elizabeth Harkness, who was an heiress, it hurt Elizabeth very much, and she resented her father for a very long time. So when she did Lizzie Borden, he was like, oh yeah, you would do that movie.
Yeah, point taken.
So I know I just gave you a lot there to quote from, but
it's. I think I can't remember if it was a direct quote from him or somebody else talking about him, but he was very aware of not. Very much the well, I didn't have anybody helping me, so I'm not going to go bend over backwards to help my daughter be a star or whatever. And she, at the same time, I think, maybe through resignation, that he's not going to do this for me, but it seemed like she was back and forth sometimes going no, I need to be my own person. I need to do this. But then I think there was one quote from her. It was sort of yes, of course, nepotism has helped me. And, I may not be here if my father wasn't a famous actor, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I think he really felt that kind of you got to do it on your own vibe.
I think so. And yet he really still didn't want her. He really, really didn't want her to do it. He wanted her not to be in the industry, only because a part of him knew how much it takes and how it rips you away from the regular life. And he, in a way, did not want her to go through that. But when she finally just convinced him that, look, I'm just going to do this thing, then he embraced it. Then he encouraged it, and then he supported her. And until she became a bigger star than he did. Yeah, he would visit her on the set and stuff, and they still, of course, stayed in contact. But it was always a challenging relationship.
One of the things you mentioned, going into that field, it can make it really hard for relationships and family. But she really did, it seems, manage to balance family. Obviously, I want to get into her various marriages and stuff, but she had 3 kids, and she was very much known for I'm here to, and she and Bill Asher, I think, said we're here to work so that we can go spend time with our family on the weekends. And so she had kids while on the show that they wrote into, so it seems maybe because her father's warnings of if you become a Hollywood star, it's going to ruin your time and your family, whatever, or just because she was naturally like that, she seemed really to be interested in I'm going to have a balance and family comes first.
No, absolutely. And her kids, she and Bill raised her children just as down to earth as she really was in her life. And Billy Asher Jr., although he's not really a junior, it's Bill Asher, Robert Montgomery and Rebecca Asher, Robert Asher and Rebecca Asher, who, by the way, is a great director, TV and film director. So yeah, she raised her kids in much the same way that she was raised by her father. And She never thought she was a great mother, but you talk to her kids and they just say that they adored her. Billy told me that when he wanted to be an actor, she said, do you really want to do this? So she kind of did what her dad did, but with more affection. It's a tough industry, you know, do you really want to do this? So that's when he decided not to. And she did not want her kids to really become actors. Rebecca, as a director, that's different. But she didn't want Billy to be an actor.
Yeah, you know, it's a reasonable thing because it is so hard, and it can make for, you know, emotional torment both within and, you know, externally.
Well, she became a superstar. I mean, of that era, she was a superstar. And I think she probably went through more challenges in the public eye than her father did. For example, she protested the Vietnam War. And she told me she used to get death threats from, you know, in phone calls, and said, if you don't stop protesting the war, I'm going to kill you. We're going to kill you. Yeah. So, you know, and she was very private as it was, and I don't think she had really expected Bewitched to be as popular as it became. She and Bill wanted to do that show because a TV show lent to a more regular life, a more 9 to 5-ish, 9 to 12-ish life. They were doing films together. They did like Johnny Cool in 1963, the year before Bewitched debuted. He directed, she starred. So they wanted to do something that would keep them more family geared, and the TV show was ultimately the reason they did it.
And she was certainly strong-willed. I mean, I'm reminded of, I mean, she took a stand when they were about to make the show. I think it was so that Bill could direct season 1, or at least the pilot. And then she said, I'm not going to do it. So then, of course, they started looking at other actresses. And then she kind of came back with a mea culpa. Okay, fine. Your point taken. So she pushed up to that point, and then probably wisely said, all right, well, it could still be a good show, even if we have a different director to start. But even to me, especially as an actress in that era, like, it takes a lot of guts to say to a studio, hey, I'm going to bail unless X, Y, and Z, even if you end up going, okay, I'm going to cave. But it still takes bravery.
Well, yeah, and especially because Bill himself was not at all pleased that she did that she, you know, walked on. He's like, you need to, because she was having issues with Jackie Cooper, the head of the studio, who was a former child star. And she was having issues with Danny Arnold, who was the first season producer, who really wanted to shape the show and take control of it, whereas she wanted Bill to have more control. But when she walked away or started to walk away and told Jackie Cooper, well, it could have been a nice little show if I was involved or whatnot, Bill said, you need to apologize. You need to call Jackie Cooper and apologize. So even Bill was a little shocked that she was taking such a strong stance in not doing the show. Yeah.
And so prior to Bewitched, I don't have a sense. How well known was she?
Oh, gosh. Any TV show, any anthology, any drama, 1-hour drama, half-hour show like The Twilight Zone or Alfred Hitchcock, she did it. She made over 200 guest appearances before Bewitched, whether on stage or in TV. So she really worked her way to making a name for herself. The Twilight Zone episode of, I don't know if you know of it, with she and Charles Bronson is one of the
silent one, yeah.
Yeah, where there's not, you know, it's strange because Dick York, Agnes Moorehead, and Elizabeth all did Twilight Zone episodes where the characters, if not didn't speak, they didn't speak a lot. Remember the Agnes Moorehead one where she's doing the invaders, where the invaders attack Earth, and she's
I've not seen that one.
Well, it's just crazy. So anyway, so she did shows like that. She did 77 Sunset Strip, where she played a biracial character. This is like, you know, before the whole, you know, the race rioting thing of the late 60s and whatnot.